He didn't need a weapon. He didn't need a uniform. He didn't even need to touch her. All he did was say, "You're under federal investigation." And suddenly, a normal conversation became a crime scene. No badge was verified. No credentials were checked. No agent existed. But her brain didn't ask those questions. Because when people think they're dealing with the FBI, they stop negotiating and start complying. Anthony Jones understood something most criminals never learn. Power isn't about what you have. It's about what other people believe you have. He wasn't an agent. He wasn't a financial advisor. He wasn't anything he claimed to be. But he built an identity out of roles people are trained to trust. Law enforcement, money, authority. The three things society tells you not to question because questioning them feels dangerous. Jones didn't start with threats. He started with credibility, calm voice, professional language, confidence. He spoke like someone who had power, and people don't verify power. They feel it. Then he introduced the badge. Not a real one, a prop, a symbol. But symbols don't need to be real to control behavior. One encounter revealed exactly how far he was willing to go. He arranged to meet a woman for sex, a transaction, clear terms. When she asked to be paid, he changed the script. He told her she was part of a federal investigation. He told her he was an FBI agent. He told her she was facing arrest. The payment conversation ended instantly. Now there was only one question in her mind. How do I not go to jail? Then he made the call. A second voice entered the scene. An accomplice. Reading from a script. Using official-sounding language. Case numbers. Charges. Procedure. Two voices create legitimacy. It feels coordinated. It feels real. This is called social proof. If more than one person confirms the authority, the brain stops resisting. And in that moment, fear replaced consent. Because fear of arrest is not a small fear. It is the fear of losing your freedom, your reputation, your future. And when someone believes that is about to happen, they comply with almost anything. And it worked. That's the part that makes impersonation crimes so effective. They don't rely on force. They rely on belief. Jones repeated the same pattern. Different women, same method, authority claim, urgency, isolation. Remove their ability to verify. Remove their ability to refuse. He wasn't improvising. He was using a system, a fake identity layered with a second fake identity, FBI agent, investment professional. Law enforcement gives you fear. Finance gives you trust. Together they create control. This tactic is called authority stacking, and it's powerful because it attacks both sides of human decision-making. Fear of punishment, hope of reward. People comply to avoid loss. People trust to gain something. Jones offered both. That's why victims don't immediately recognize the manipulation, because it doesn't feel like a threat at first. It feels like dealing with someone important. There's a reason this works psychologically. Human beings are conditioned from childhood to obey authority figures. Teachers, police, government. You're taught that questioning them leads to consequences. So when someone claims that role, your brain defaults to compliance. This is known as the obedience response. It bypasses logic. You don't stop to analyze. You stop to survive. Jones weaponized that response. But impersonators always make one critical mistake. They eventually interact with someone who doesn't accept the role. In one case, the woman he threatened reported the incident. She didn't treat him like an agent. She treated him like a suspect. A local detective listened to the story, and instead of deferring to the claimed authority, he verified it. He contacted the real FBI. That's the moment the illusion ended. Real agents don't rely on props. They rely on records. They check their systems. There was no agent by that name. No operation, no case. Just a man using a title he didn't have. Once real investigators got involved, everything Jones built collapsed quickly. No credentials, no documentation, no authority, because real authority is verifiable. Fake authority depends on urgency. If you slow the process down, the lie falls apart. Jones was arrested and charged in federal court, not for working for the FBI, but for pretending to, for using that lie to exploit and coerce. He was sentenced to nearly 6 years in federal prison. 6 years for the crime. But impersonation cases don't end with sentencing, because the damage isn't just financial, it's psychological. Victims are left with a permanent question: how was I supposed to know? They trusted a symbol society told them to trust. They obeyed a role they were taught not to challenge, and that creates long-term effects. Loss of confidence, loss of trust in institutions, loss of trust in their own judgment. Because the manipulation didn't look like manipulation, it looked like authority. That's what makes this type of crime different from typical fraud. It doesn't just take something from you, it takes your ability to feel safe questioning power. There are clear signs that separate real agents from impersonators. Real federal agents do not demand sex. They do not threaten arrest to force cooperation. They do not operate without documentation. They do not prevent you from verifying their identity. In fact, legitimate agencies expect verification. Impersonators fear it. If someone claims to be law enforcement, you can contact the agency directly through official channels and confirm it. Real agents will never punish you for doing that. Jones depended on one thing: speed. He created urgency so his victims wouldn't have time to think. Because time is the enemy of a lie. Slow the interaction down, and authority has to prove itself. He built his power out of words, out of tone, out of symbols. But none of it was real, and yet it controlled people. That's the uncomfortable truth behind impersonation crimes. Authority doesn't come from a badge. It comes from belief, and belief can be manufactured. Jones never had federal power. He had something else. He had the ability to make people imagine consequences that weren't real. And imagination is stronger than force, because people will comply with what they fear long before they verify what's true. That's why this tactic keeps working. Not because the impersonators are powerful, but because the roles they steal are. Authority is the easiest mask to fake. Fear is the easiest tool to use. And belief is the mechanism that makes both work.